In the sun-scorched fields of Western Australia in the spring of 1932, a peculiar war was brewing. The land was dry, the wheat was ripe, and the emus, those giant flightless birds, were hungry. Farmers in the Campion district watched in despair as thousands of emus trampled their crops, leaving trails of destruction. The Great Emu War, as it would later be called, was about to begin, and it would be a tale of grit, chaos, and unexpected twists. Jack Thompson, a wiry farmer with a sun-creased face, stood on his porch, squinting at the horizon. His wheat fields, his family's lifeline after the Great War, were under siege. Emus, some as tall as 6 feet, stormed through the golden stalks, their powerful legs kicking up clouds of dust. Jack's son, Tommy, a lanky 12-year-old with a mop of brown hair, joined him.
Pa, they're eating everything. What do we do?
Tommy's voice cracked with worry. Jack rubbed his chin.
We fight back, son. The government's sending help.
Word had spread that the Australian military, desperate to aid struggling farmers, was deploying soldiers to tackle the emu menace. Major G.P.W. Meredith, a stern officer with a neatly trimmed mustache, was tasked with leading the charge. Armed with 2 Lewis machine guns and 10,000 rounds of ammunition, Meredith and his small team arrived in Campion in November, ready to wage war on the feathered invaders. Tommy was thrilled at the sight of the soldiers.
Real guns, Pa. They'll blast those emus to bits.
Jack wasn't so sure. He'd seen emus outrun horses, their long legs a blur. These birds were no ordinary foe. The first battle began on a windy morning. Meredith set up his machine guns on a ridge overlooking Jack's fields. Hundreds of emus dotted the landscape, pecking at the wheat. Tommy, hiding behind a fence with his friend Sarah, a sharp-eyed girl from a neighboring farm, watched eagerly. The guns roared to life, spitting bullets across the field. Dust flew and the emus scattered like leaves in a storm. But when the smoke cleared, only a handful of birds lay still. The rest had vanished, zigzagging at speeds no one could believe.
They're too fast.
Tommy whispered to Sarah, who clutched a notebook where she sketched the chaos. Sarah frowned.
They're smart too. Look how they split up.
Meredith, red-faced and frustrated, barked orders to reposition the guns. The emus, it seemed, had a knack for dodging bullets. Days passed and the war grew stranger. Meredith's team tried ambushing the emus at a local dam where the birds gathered to drink. But the emus sensed danger and fled before the soldiers could fire. Tommy and Sarah tagged along, sneaking closer to the action. They overheard Meredith muttering about the birds' uncanny intelligence. Jack, meanwhile, was losing hope. His fields were nearly bare, and the soldiers' efforts seemed futile. One evening, as the sun painted the sky orange, Tommy and Sarah had an idea.
What if we don't fight them?
Tommy said, his eyes bright.
What if we trick them?
Sarah nodded, sketching a plan in her notebook. They proposed luring the emus into a fenced-off area with piles of grain, then closing the gate. Jack, skeptical but desperate, agreed to try it. He shared the plan with Meredith, who, though doubtful, was running out of options. The next morning, the farmers and soldiers worked together. They piled grain in an old paddock surrounded by sturdy fences. Tommy and Sarah helped spread the bait, giggling as they imagined the emu's surprise. Sure enough, the birds came running, their beady eyes fixed on the feast. Hundreds poured into the paddock, and at Jack's signal, the farmers slammed the gates shut. Cheers erupted as the emus squawked in confusion, trapped at last. Meredith, impressed, tipped his hat to Tommy and Sarah.
"You kids outsmarted us all,"
he said. The trapped emus were relocated far from the farms, and the soldiers called off their guns. By December, the war was over. The military claimed victory, but everyone knew the real heroes were the farmers and two clever kids. Jack's field slowly recovered, and Tommy and Sarah became local legends. The Great Emu War, though a footnote in history, taught Campion a lesson. Sometimes brains beat bullets. As Tommy looked out at the fields now free of emus, he grinned at Sarah.
Think we'll ever fight another war like that?
Sarah laughed, sketching an emu in her notebook.
Not if we're smart enough to avoid it.
And so the tale of the Great Emu War lived on, a story of a small town, a big problem, and the unexpected triumph of wit over might.